right now we're into 2020. To talk about this, we have to go back to about 7 years ago. So in 2013, I was living out of home. I was working in advertising. I didn't have a very good relationship with my parents. I was in a happy, stable relationship, but I was working really, really hard. So I was burnt out, completely disconnected from myself. So that's the kind of picture, this was in 2013. And I was at a crossroads where I had to make a decision, or quite a few decisions, whether or not to go back home, whether or not to change jobs. There were all these factors. And when I was much younger, I was more intuitive. So I was able to make decisions based on how I felt, based on gut feeling. I was very much in tune with myself. But then by the time 2013 had come, for some reason, I felt very disconnected from myself. And so I didn't kind of know what to choose. And I needed like guidance. My friend and I, we went to see a Bazi reader, so like a Chinese astrologer. And she pointed me towards the Kuan Yin temple in Singapore. I don't know if you know of the Buddhist temple, it's in Waterloo Street. I've been there before when I was much younger. I feel a huge affinity with Kuan Yin as well. So I went there and, I was really crying my eyes out that day, like completely on my knees and crying. And the guidance that I got was that I will be guided. So then that's it. Next day or next day, my uncle, whom I'm really close to, he happened to pick me up in the car because he wanted to pass me something to pass to my cousin, whom I was going to see, because I was going to go to Australia in a couple of days for a holiday. I was so burnt out, I needed it. And so he saw me and he looked at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." And this is the uncle who doesn't say much. As always, I'm always surrounded by very much introverted people. Love that. He asked me if everything was okay, and then he kept quiet for a while. He was just driving, and I was quiet. And then he said, "Why don't you try meditation?" And again, I was like completely okay because I could use anything at that point, to make my life better. So I said, okay. And so I started, meditating based on his guidance at home. Very simply, I would light a candle up and I would just sit down and meditate. So I was invited for a group meditation. And I was a little bit apprehensive at first because my parents, when they were younger, or when I was younger, they have also gone to like different meditation groups and etc. And I've heard certain, stories around it which weren't so pleasant to my ears. So I was a little bit apprehensive, but I thought, you know what? I always have the choice, right? I can go and see what's up, and then if it relates to me, sure. And if it doesn't, then okay, fine, I can let it go. So I went to the center, and that was when I saw this picture of a man. I think I've spoken about this some stories ago. I saw this framed up picture of a man, and I saw the eyes, and I saw truth coming from the eyes. I was very mesmerized. Yeah, it always gets me very emotional when I talk about this because his eyes were so powerful, it moved me inside, and I don't know why, Even up to this point, when I talk about it, when I visualize the eyes, it still makes me feel like that. So much compassion, So anyway, I see this picture and I'm like, okay, I don't know who this is, but fine. So then we all sit to meditate. And so my aunt is there this time, and my aunt tells me like, Lavanya, we're all going to sit to meditate. There are going to be some like mantras and chants, and if you want to say them, you can. If you don't want to say them, you don't have to. Make sure you feel comfortable. You probably haven't sat for so long on the floor, so be like comfortable. Like if you want to move your legs around or whatever, like please carry on and do it. And so I sat there. I could hear like the cars, because the road was just nearby our center at the time, which was at Balestier. So everyone's around and everyone's sitting quietly, perfectly, and I'm, after 5-10 minutes, I'm moving my legs, my hands, and then I sit down still. and keeping my conscious attention back in the room. And at one point I thought I was sweating, right, like down my neck. So I took my hand to kind of wipe away my sweat. Maybe like I had perspired because on my way there or something. But when I put my hand here, there was no wetness, there was no perspiration. So I was like, what? Because I literally felt as though like water was flowing. Like, how you perspire and you have like sweat, right? Like that's how I felt. And so my natural instinct is just kind of feeling like wipe it away or something. But when I did that, there was no physical like wetness. And so I was like, what? And at the same time, I was feeling really good inside, and my hands were also like really like cold. I started feeling like cold sensations here. I was like, that's interesting. This is like beyond the body, right? Yeah, it's sensation by the body, but it's intellectually like I don't know what's going on. I don't know what this is. So after the meditation, we all gathered, and usually when there's someone new, people ask about like your experience or answer any questions that you might have. So they asked me for my experience, and I said, sitting down, and I felt like these things, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's you experiencing energy. So this was the first time I kind of had like some introduction to vibration and energy. I felt really good. And it was effortless, right? Because I didn't try to get that feeling. It was just sitting, and I was just being in the present as much as I could, because I was also like listening to the sounds, and like the aircon was making sounds, all of that, everything that you would hear, I could hear. But still, like, I felt really good inside, and I had these like experience, and that made me want to continue trying meditation. So I left for Australia, and I remember still waking up like 10-15 minutes earlier to meditate, and it's a good feeling. It was a good feeling that kept me going internally, and there was nothing to give up. There was nothing to not do, not wear, you have to do it like this, none of that. It was completely customizable for me, so I did it in a way that was simple and easy for me. When I came back from Australia, that's when I attended what you call a video discourse. So the founder of Sampan Meditation, the man in the frame in the photo, would be talking about different spiritual topics related to the energy centers in your body. And believe it or not, this discourse was meant to happen for 7 days straight, 7 or 8 days. And it was in the evenings, including work day, weekday evenings. And I was in a company, an agency, where I used to work till 10 p.m. I don't know, 11. I used to leave at 10 or 11. And so I was like, oh my God, I really want to attend this. I was thirsty for spiritual knowledge by that time. And I really wanted to hear what he might have to say, or like be enlightened a little bit. I was wondering, how am I going to attend this? But I had the pure wish. I really, really wanted to be there. And, pure wishes and prayers cannot be undermined, especially when they are done on such a pure level. You do receive them. And I think for me, I had like complete faith, and also a really pure wish that I really wanted to hear this discourse. You wouldn't believe it. Like most of the days, so I think I missed maybe one day, but all of the other days, somehow by 5 or 6 p.m. my work will just round up, and then I'm free. And I'm like, has this never happened before? I remember sitting for the first day. So there I saw this man again. I'm like, oh, so this is the man, sidetrack. I'm into astrology. And the moment I saw his eyes, I saw him, I'm like, this one's a Scorpio for sure. But anyway, fast forward, not important. So I'm sitting there, and he's giving some introduction, and then he said, when we are talking about these things, it's good to kind of keep the knowledge that we already know aside, about whatever it is, so that we can fully absorb whatever that we are here to learn. It's kind of very similar to any other skill that you may have. If you want to be fully surrendered to your teacher, you kind of have to let go of anything and be completely surrendered so that you are receptive. So it's kind of like that. And he started talking, and he was explaining on certain things, on universal consciousness, on religion, and a couple of other things. And when I heard him talk about what universal consciousness is and what religion is, at that moment, I know that I had that previous experience where my intellect was just dumbfounded because of vibrations, but this moment will always be special to me because I felt like I was listening to stuff that I've already known all my life. And mind you, this is the first time I was meditating, but I heard stuff that I felt like I've known all my life to be true. Number one, universal consciousness, is not defined to a religion or a person. It's energy, it's whatever you call it, God, source, universal consciousness, whatever. It's everywhere, in everything, in everyone. And that's always been my belief, and I don't know how. Okay, so I'm born in a Hindu family, and we did all the rituals and rites and everything, but I never could place that much importance in the form and the rituals, because I knew somehow inherently since young that God was beyond all of this. And the other thing was that religions are not like these religions that we practice. True religion is actually our humanity, how we treat people and love people with kindness, and how we relate to other human beings. So I'm listening to everything he's saying. I mean, I never went in thinking I want to be convinced by what he's saying. Not at all. I was just open to hear. I also felt a recognition with this man, but not this form. Not the form of the man. I felt like I knew this soul. I've known this soul before, or I've been in contact with this soul before, and it gave me a sense of anchor, a sense of belonging, a sense of coming back home to myself. I felt suddenly connected. Slowly, I started feeling connected to myself, because this was truth for me. And so after finishing those days, then I started meditating. It takes 45 days to cultivate any habit. So I was starting to cultivate that habit. I didn't sit down for half an hour in the morning because it was too long for me. So again, I customized it. I used to sit for 10-15 minutes. So I will wake up 10-15 minutes earlier. I, shower, brush teeth, whatever. I would sit down, I would meditate, and then I would go to work. This used to happen for 45 days. And my life slowly started changing and changing and changing. So in the next video, hopefully I can share with you, some of the changes that I experienced. It's been 7 years now, so I'll start to tell you some of the changes that I immediately experienced after starting meditation about, 7 years ago. If you've been with me up till now, thank you so much for listening to me. If at this point you want to ask me about Samapun meditation, which is the meditation that I practice, and details about it, please feel free to message me or comment down below, and I will get back to you. Bye.